What's up, everybody? Welcome to Moxie Bets, presented by Caesar Sportsbook. I'm your host, Katie Mox. Coming up on today's show, March Madness is coming to a close, and oh, how mad it's been. The Final Four are set. We'll preview those games for this weekend and get you some early picks. Plus, MLB opening day is this Thursday. We have a special guest here to talk some MLB Futures, and you know it. You've got some Mox Locks coming your way. But first, let's welcome in our very special guest, senior writer for the Action Network, Collin Wilson. Collin, what's up? Thanks for coming on.
Just adjusting my body clock after spending the Sweet 16 in Vegas for UConn and UCLA and Gonzaga. It was wild. So happy to be back in the Central Time Zone, or as we call it, God's country.
God's country. Well, you know what? I go to a small town in Wisconsin every single summer, which is Central Time, and we call it God's country as well. So totally relate to you on that one. Before we get into this, I think it's just so interesting because sports betting is a newer industry. Everybody has like a different past. I worked in fashion PR. We had Stuckey on. He worked in finance. I see you have your master's in computer engineering,
Yes.
and that you were doing software consulting. So how did this get into sports betting?
So I got out of college, God, I'm dating myself, a little over 20 years ago, and I became an independent consultant writing software. I graduated from the University of Arkansas. I got my master's in computer engineering, and I immediately started flying to like Fortune 100 companies and redoing all their supply chain. And when I was in the airplane 200 times a year, I mean, this was like pre having kids, right? You have all this free time. I just blogged about college football, and I blogged about MLB, and I would use advanced analytics, like things that are like easy for everybody now when you're handicapping games. I was kind of breaking the edge on that in the mid 2000s. And then finally Stuckey, I won one of his little contests over a decade ago. And when we started to come together to make the Action Network, I was his first phone call. So really before it was even a company in 2017, I was already a part of the team. So it's unbelievable when life presents you these really small crack windows for you to jump in for opportunity. And now I'm not a software consultant anymore. I'm a full-time professional gambler and a writer and a member of the press. It's crazy how life takes a pivot.
It does, and it's funny because you can obviously use all of those things that you learned in your previous life and apply them to sports betting. And I think it probably makes you a lot more analytical and look into those things, just like Stuckey working in finance. But how wonderful, right? That you actually get to do what you love, and you get to apply what you learned in school to what you're doing now, and you get to be a degenerate. Which, like, what is better than that than to bet for a living? But let's engineer some bets here, and let's talk about this Final Four. So it's coming up on Saturday. The matchups are a bit surprising. 3 of the 4 teams are making their program Final Four debut. We've got Florida Atlantic versus SDSU, and you got Miami versus UConn. What's interesting is ESPN says that only 37 out of 20 million brackets picked the Final Four correctly. I have none of my picks are in the Final Four, absolutely none of them. It's a 0.000185%. What is your reaction to this year? Now, we call it March Madness for a reason. It's always going to be a little bit mad, but this feels way more mad. I mean, upset central here. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I had UConn going all the way, coming out of the West, winning the whole thing, and I got nothing else right. I got nothing else right besides UConn, right? So, and I think the thing is this is the more the transfer portal has affected college football, it's also affected college basketball. And the fact, if I can't get playing time right away, I'm going to go play in Conference USA. I'm going to go play in the Mountain West. And now we're starting to see that trickle down. Like Miami is full of NIL deals. That's how they were able to keep this group together.
Yes.
So I am now wanting to get off betting chalk in March Madness next year, and maybe think about taking more big dogs, because a rule of thumb is when you do your brackets, add up your seeds, and it should be between 7 and 11. If it's there, usually you do pretty well. I think that's out the door.
Well, yeah, I think the whole blue blood thing has to be out the door, especially with all these NIL deals. Like you said, Miami really taking advantage of that. I also read a stat, maybe on Action Network, that said if you bet $100 on the money line for the underdogs this entire tournament, you'd be up over $1,500. Like, that's just wild. Because before, you would think there would be some chalk, and I agree with you. That is probably the way to go about this moving forward. However, now that we're in this Final Four, I do find myself going chalk a little bit. So let's talk about this first game, FAU versus SDSU. San Diego State favored -130, just a basket basically on the spread, over under 132. I lean under in this game just based on the defenses, but are you taking a side or are you looking at a total?
No, I'm completely with you. It's a 1 point game. It should be power rated there. It should be lined there. I think that's correct. And San Diego State for me would be the lean I would be on, but I might play it live. College basketball is a great
Yeah.
live betting sport, but I'm with you on the under, except I'm playing a first half under. And the reason is when you do
Ooh,
X's, yeah, when you do X's and O's, you look at Florida Atlantic, they're a 3-and-D team, and there's two different kinds of 3-pointers, right? There's catch and shoot 3-pointers, and then there's off dribble threes. And FAU is all off dribble threes. The problem is San Diego State is top 10 nationally in efficiency and
yes.
guarding off dribble three. So that's going to be a problem. And San Diego State is going to have their own issues from an X's and O's, what they like to do inside the paint with ISO and pick and roll. FAU can defend all that. So I go first half under because now we're switching out of basketball arenas and we're getting into football stadium, right? Where the Texans play. So you get the whole
Mm,
sight lines, the rims, everything else.
yeah.
I'll go full game under, first game under. I agree with you.
I love that, and I'm gonna ride with you on this one for that first half under, especially because you got to think these are teams that have never been on this stage and not at a football field before. There's going to be a lot of nerves. There's going to be some poor shooting. There's been depth perception errors pretty much this entire tournament with a lot of these new teams. So I feel like shooting is going to be a problem. And I do lean Aztecs, but I'm a little bit biased because I have a friend that's been a coach at San Diego State for a very long time, and they are 8-0 straight up and 7-1 against the spread since basically winning over Creighton in the beginning of this tournament. So let's go Aztecs, but definitely locking in those unders. Any player prop? I'm not on any props in this. Is there any player props that you're eyeing for this matchup?
I'm probably going to be on a John L. Davis under point total for Florida Atlantic. And since the start of the Conference USA tournament, he's only 4 of 23 from 3-point range. So he is severely struggling from outside the arc. That's going to be an issue in Houston in this stadium with these rims and with this 3-point defense of San Diego State. I'll take a prop on Davis's under points.
Okay, I'm going to tail that one with you. Now, looking at the next game, UConn versus Miami. UConn favored -250 on the money line, 5.5 on the spread, over under 149.5. Now, I live in Stamford, Connecticut now. I was out walking my dog the other day and I actually saw the UConn Husky mascot walking around, trolling the streets. Everyone's super excited here, but my brain says to take UConn and to cover the points, but Miami is such a frisky team. And the fact that they've been perfect against the spread in this entire tournament, it's like, I'm a little bit worried about this one. What do you think?
Yeah, Miami is what you call a kill shot team. They can give up 10-0 runs. They can put up 10-0 runs. And then as you see against Texas, like sometimes they can bury it. The problem is UConn is playing the best defense and the best offense of all the
Yeah.
tournament teams of whatever's left. And I think you go back to the Sweet 16 pod in Las Vegas. Eric Musselman gets beat by 20. He comes in dejected and he says, I cannot believe every single shot that we took as the Razorbacks were contested. We couldn't get anything up without a hand in our face, and
Yeah.
we allowed UConn to have 22 assists. Fast forward to Gonzaga, 2 of 20 from 3-point range against, and that's because UConn has a hand in their face, everything. I mean, you just shut down Gonzaga. So what do you think is going to happen against Miami, a team that likes to go in transition? Well, UConn's top 40 against that. You like to attack the rim? Well, UConn's top 20 in that. There's not a lot of things that Miami does that UConn is not prepared to stop. So for me, you're right. It is a very beefy spread, and the money line is starting to get heavy. True odds on this
Yeah.
for them to win the national title should be like -110. You got to pay way more than that. True odds for this should be more like -3.5, but you're going to pay more than that. So, it's the thing where UConn is the best team and the odds makers know it, and they're going to tax your pocket.
So are you going to take this 5.5 or what are you doing?
I'm ultimately going to be ended up playing a
Playing it?
-5.5, but I actually am thinking more of an open parlay card if you have access to that. Just lay the -230
Okay.
here, lay the minus money
Right.
line, whatever in the national title, because like the number for the future should be -110, not the -130 that's out there. So it's a better price if you just roll over 2 money lines.
Okay, I love that. So it seems like you think UConn is going to take the whole thing then. If we look at this, obviously we're looking at an under for FAU, SDSU. UConn likely wins this game, even if you may be like Miami with the points here. But UConn, you got to think too, they started this season 14-0, and they actually look better now than they did at the start of the season. You just talked about it. They're the most complete team that's left in this tournament. Is this going to be UConn's, fifth national championship?
They beat Arkansas, so I checked out of UConn. They're no longer my favorite. No, I'm kidding. I think it is. I think it is their fifth, going to be their fifth. But, I mean, I'm not surprised. Nobody's been surprised because from an efficiency perspective, they've been the best team in college basketball since February 1st.
Yeah, so you're not going to lay that minus 125. You're going to look at more of an open parlay between the two, which I actually love.
Yeah. Yeah. You're going to get a better price instead of laying the future. Just lay two money lines in a row on UConn. Just roll that money right over. And, I think from a prop perspective, you can get better value in taking UConn certain players and their rebounding because UConn is number 2 in the nation on the offensive glass. They just wipe it they got Windex on it. They're just up there cleaning it all day. And that means they're going to have massive amounts of putbacks. So I do think that the bigs like Adamo Sonogo and Clegane, I think that they're going to have a massive amount of rebounds here on the Miami misses. So there will be props that I will be playing on over rebounds on the two big guys.
Over rebounds on the two big guys. Okay, we're going to take a quick break and then we're going to move on to the MLB and cover all of our bases. We'll be right back. Caesars Sportsbook, it's not just an app, it's a whole empire. Iconic casinos, hotels, world-class restaurants. It's all yours with Caesars Rewards. Because every bet you place, win or lose, earns reward credits, which you can redeem for hotel stays at over 50 destinations, meals, tickets, merch, bonuses, and more. Get started today. Create an account with promo code OMAHAFULL. Looking to reduce the fees for your restaurant deliveries? Dash Pass by DoorDash is the easiest way to unlock savings on your latest cravings on every eligible order. Dash Pass is a membership from DoorDash that offers unlimited $0 delivery fees from thousands of eligible restaurants, grocery stores, and convenience stores. Once you join, you'll save on each eligible order and receive DoorDash credits back on all pickup orders. That means more money back in your wallet. Get what you want when you need it without any upfront commitments. You'll have the ability to cancel your membership at any time with no hidden or additional fees. You'll also enjoy the best of your neighborhood as you discover the new and best places near you. Get 50% off up to $20 value on your next Dash Pass order when you sign up for membership and redeem Moxie at checkout. That's 50% off your first Dash Pass order up to $20 value with Moxie. Say goodbye to delivery fees. Get Dash Pass from DoorDash today using Moxie. When you've got zero delivery fees, you're free to get more because you can. Start your free month trial today. Welcome back to Moxie Bets. I'm Katie Mox, and now we're going to cover all of the bases with our guest, Collin. Let's look at some MLB Futures. It's starting on Thursday. What is one NL division winner bet that you have placed already?
The Braves, and I love the Braves infinitely to win the NL East, to get them to win the NL Pennant. The roster is just stacked from head to toe, and it's amazing they got all these guys under contract for like the next 8 years. While the Mets are out signing 40-year-old pitchers, the Braves just keep reloading. Rookie of the year Michael Harris, Rookie of the year Austin Riley. Oh, by the way, Ronald Acuña's coming back from injury. Ozzie Albies coming back from injury. Oh, and they won a World Series a couple of years ago. It's like they're just not priced properly in the market. I know that they've clipped the Mets in the odds, but I still don't think it's right. And there's some signings they've had on the team, specifically their catcher, Sean Murphy. It's just sets them ahead of everybody else, and they're going to prove it this year.
So you're not drinking the Kool-Aid with the Mets and all of their kind of like off-season blockbuster type acquisitions and trades.
There's certain things in certain sports where you have to realize, like around this time of year, everybody thinks the Mets are going to win the World Series.
I know.
Around July, everybody tells me that Tennessee is going to win the college football playoff, right? I mean, it's just these certain teams in certain sports everybody thinks they're winning. So you have to prove it to me, Mets. You have to prove it to me.
Yeah. Well, because that's the thing. It's like the Mets are going to Met. You almost expect it to happen, them to have a great season and then to fall apart when it really matters. All right. Who are you looking at for MVP in the NL?
Well, we're going to go with Ronald Acuña. And I know I mentioned the Braves and all this Braves love, but specifically with Acuña, 2 years ago, he has the ACL. He has surgery on it. Last year, he's rehabbing. He's trying to get over the hump and get back to where he was. Then all of a sudden, he shows up in November to the Venezuelan home run derby and just blasts it out of the park. Fans rush the field. He's jacking 500 feet. It's just the craziest video I've ever seen on YouTube. And then he shows up to Braves camp and he's like, I'm going to go play for Venezuela in the World Baseball Classic. And they're like, no, you're not. We need you fresh. We need you here. And so now you look at the projected lineup. He's going to bat first for the Braves. All of this to say, why do I like Ronald Acuña to win the MVP? Because he has a chance with the new rules in baseball about how you can only have 3 pickoff attempts. Ronald Acuña might steal 40 bases, which puts him in play to be a 40-40 guy, something that's only been done 4 times in MLB history. You go 40-40, you're an MVP by far. So, he's got the power to do it. He's going to be leading off. And now with these new base stealing rules where there's only 3 pickoff attempts, there's going to be a lot of stolen bases in baseball this year. And so I like Acuña to go challenge 40-40.
Do you think that all of these new rules that they've put forth, like the pitch clock and like the steals and the bigger bases, is this going to make sports betting easier or harder? Because some of these, I feel like, the base stealing might be a little bit easier with the size of the bases. And of course, there's going to be more hits when you have this pitch clock. Is this an exciting time for baseball? Or are you kind of like, oh, I don't like this?
I hate this. To see a pitch
Yeah.
clock like counting down, like this is. I've been going to Kauffman Stadium since I was in diapers, like running around the stadium. There's
Yeah.
no clock. There's no such thing as a clock. This is baseball, right? And when you
Yeah.
put a clock up on the screen, you give me anxiety. Like I'm trying to hope the
Yeah.
pitcher gets it off. I'm hoping that the batter doesn't have what I saw a foul. What is that? Where you're not set by the time
Yeah.
the clock gets to set. What is all this? I mean, I don't
Hmm.
understand this. What are we doing? So I don't think the starters once the starters get in a groove, they'll be fine. It's the relievers where they're pumping 100-mile-an-hour gas, one after
Yeah.
another. I think games are going to get blown. I'm scared to death to take an under with all these new rules. And I'm an under guy, like Sunday getaway games. I got
Yeah.
the right umpire. I'll take an under. I'm scared to death to take an under. So I'm just going to play first fives for the first week or two and see how this goes.
Yeah. I feel like the beginning of the seasons for any sport is hard to bet. I like to just kind of sit back a little bit, see, how these teams look. But with baseball now, it's even crazier, even harder because there's all these new rules, and you don't necessarily know how things are going to go. Who are you looking at for a Rookie of the Year for the NL?
I'm going to take Jordan Walker with the Cardinals, NL Rookie of the Year, and really, you would say this early in the season. It's a head-to-head race with Corbin Carroll of Arizona, or maybe Ezekiel Tovar. We're going to play shortstop. It's his job in Colorado, and I think the thing that you have to realize is that Walker has max lineup protection in between Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado. And and this is the team that's going to make the playoffs. So not only does he get the added value of having lineup protection, he's going to play every day. He's already on the roster. He's also going to be playing for a team that is going to make the playoffs with the Cardinals. So he gets bigger spotlight. He gets more votes. But he is a man amongst boys when it comes to his age. If you see him hit, he's projected
Yeah.
by Streamer, Bad X to go 15-15. He's a 2020 candidate. That is NL Rookie of the Year numbers by far.
Ooh, okay, I like that one. What about for the Cy Young Award?
Yeah, for the Cy Young, I'm going to go back and loop back to the Braves, and I'm going to go back to their catcher signing of Sean Murphy. So I'm going to split bets on the NL Cy Young in between Spencer Strider and Max Fried. And the reason is because of catcher Sean Murphy coming in from the A's. If you look at who had the best framing rates of all catchers last year, Sean Murphy was sixth. And what does that mean? That means he can snag a ball in the corner, pull it in. He gets extra outs, extra strikes for his pitchers, about a 5 to 10% bump. So I'll split my units on two Braves pitchers.
I feel like you're very high on the Braves this year. It's causing me to rethink a lot of the things that I thought coming in here because you're to your point, yeah, the Mets are going to Met. It's hard to believe in them. I kind of got caught up in it last year, but they just seem like such the sexy team to pick right now. So yeah, maybe I shouldn't just put my hand on the stove again. I'm going to have to look at a lot of these Braves futures. Is there any player props, season future player props that you've locked in early?
Yeah, I think everyone should. I mentioned Corbin Carroll out in Arizona, and he is, I think, the athletic name.
People are acting like he's the second coming of
Yeah,
Jesus Christ, like that
yeah.
all of a sudden the Diamondbacks are going to be a contender right now, which is
Well,
wild to think.
I'm jealous of his hair. God, I wish I could grow some
Yeah.
nice flowing hair like that. But besides that, no, the kid has been clocked as the fastest in all of Major League Baseball. I think 30.7 feet per second was his sprint speed. That makes him
Yeah.
the fastest. So instead of taking him rookie for the year, where I mentioned Arizona's not going to get a lot of love, they're going to play late at night. No, the voters are not going to be watching. Take him 15 to 1 to win the stolen bases prop. He's going to steal.
Oh,
He has a 500 OBP in spring. He's going to be on base one out of every two times he goes up to bat, and then he's going to steal every
yeah.
time that he's on base with these rules. I'll take a 15 to 1 prop on stolen bases rather than a rookie of the year on Corbin Carroll.
Okay, I love that. How do you think that the Diamondbacks are going to be this year? Because they're in a tough division. You got the Padres, who I feel like are no longer the little stepbrother of the Dodgers. Dodgers still a juggernaut. Do you think that the Diamondbacks can make any noise with Corbin Carroll, or is it just kind of like, okay, he'll steal bases, he'll be exciting to watch, but this team is still going to be kind of in the bottom end of this division?
They have the farm system to challenge, not this year though. So when the
Yeah.
kids come up and get their cup of coffee and they come up from the farm, they're going to be able to put some wins together. That's going to surprise a lot of people. But ultimately, the Padres are willing to spend everybody's money, their money, everybody's money, the budget for the world on winning this World Series. And then the Dodgers will make moves as they have to. But then again, I'm kind of low on the Dodgers because not a lot of movement
Yeah.
this offseason makes me think we're saving up pennies for Shohei Ohtani because we're going to have to pay a Shohei Ohtani tax there real soon. So that's why I think the Padres run away with this. The Giants are kind of middling. There's a chance here for the Diamondbacks to get some wins and sneak some stuff in. They can't do any damage in the division, but yeah, they can win some games.
Do you think that Shohei will go to the Dodgers? Because he said previously that he wants to be with a small market team. Now, I know he wants to stay in the West Coast because it's closer to Japan, but the Dodgers are not a small market team. This is probably the biggest team in California or on the West. Is that something you think will actually happen?
I mean, it's like a what top four? It's like a Mount Rushmore of franchises of sports. And so
Yeah.
I know that he said that, but on the down low, everybody knows that he loves California. It's when he came into
Yeah.
Major League Baseball, everybody thought Seattle was going to be the big buyer. Ichiro Suzuki was there. There's a very strong base for him to go and play there, but he didn't want anything to do with Seattle, and he ended up with the Angels. And everybody just knows that he loves California. He's not going to leave California. And unless he's going to go play for the Modesto Nuts, like in AA, I don't know what small team he's talking about because that ain't going to happen
Right.
in California. So no, he's not coming to the Midwest to play for the Brewers or the Royals or anything like that. Dodgers are going
Yeah.
to throw the world at him.
Well, and he could still live in the same house. I mean,
Yeah.
it's 45 minutes on the 405. It couldn't be any closer. All right. So, what's a team total that you have placed in the NL,
So everybody
or
knows
just
the
in general?
Oh yeah. That we have one at the Action Network. Everybody knows we love the Mariners. We line up every year. We shove our Mariners money over to win the World Series, and it never happens. Mariners are the only team that never
Okay.
go to the World Series. They never go to the World Series. So this year, I'm turning on them. I'm going villain. I'm going to go Mariners under 87.5 wins. And look at all the projections, like Zips at 83, Pacoda at 82. So everyone has the projection lower. And last year's playoff run was a lot of fun, but then they got swept out by the Astros. They got beat up by the Astros again all year in the regular season. And nothing's really changed for them heading into this season. But you look at the new rule changes, and I go back to this. They were one of the worst base running teams in all of Major League Baseball. So these new rules, it
Mm.
doesn't help them at all. And then you go back to this other rule that there are no shifts in baseball. The Seattle Mariners were so ultra reliant more than any other team on defensive shifts. This ultimately hurts them on defense. So I'm going to take an under 87.5.
Okay, I love that. Now we're going to transition into Mox Locks, which is basically your best bet for the evening or the weekend. And I see here that you have a WrestleMania bet for me. I didn't even know that you could bet on WrestleMania, but give it to me.
Yeah, you can bet on it. And we're going to take Edge, the Hall of Famer Edge, to go over Finn Balor. Hell in a Cell match, minus 160. And you say to yourself, Colin, I was watching Monday Night Raw last night, and Finn Balor came out as the demon, and he never loses as the demon. So word on the street is that when Edge started his career in WWE, he had this tag team partner named Gangrel. He has like fang teeth. He drinks blood out of a goblet. Gangrel is going to be there with Edge walking down to the ring. He's going to have a part into this role. But more importantly, WrestleMania is for good guys. And WrestleMania is where the
Yeah.
whole angle is going to come to an end. And the good guy always wins. So minus 160 on Edge seems like a no-brainer.
Minus 160 on Edge. Okay, I love it. I'm going NBA with my Mox Locks today. I'm taking the Pelicans plus the 8.5 versus the Golden State Warriors. I am a Bay Area girl. You can see I got a lot of Jimmy Garoppolo back here, a lot of San Francisco 49ers, and some Warriors stuff. But this feels like a lot of points to give the Pelicans right now. They've won 5 games in a row, both straight up and against the spread, including 21 points, winning by 21 points over the Clippers, who have really been a great team right now in the West. Golden State, oh God, I don't know. We're trying to avoid the play-in here. I hope that they can. They haven't been great against the spread, 2-5 in their last 7, and the Pelicans do lead the season series 2-1. So while I think that the Warriors will win this game, I'm not going to lay the 8.5 with them. So give me plus 8.5 for the Pelicans. Colin, thank you so much for joining us today. You can follow him everything on actionnetwork.com, also on Twitter at _Colin1. And you're also the host of the Big Bets on Campus podcast. Anything else that you want to plug?
No, come on over to Action Network and give us a follow, and we'll talk college sports all day.
College sports all day. Well, again, thank you so much. I'm definitely tailing all of your Braves picks on this. Really, really appreciate that because I have not dipped my toe into baseball quite yet. This has been Moxie Bets presented by Caesar Sportsbook. Don't forget to follow us on social at Moxie Bets, and we'll see you next time.